Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. I'm Eli. I'm director of the Ann Arbor District Library, and we're so delighted to tell you about our trips to Seoul and our partnership with the Gangdong-gu Library. So this began in March of 2023 when I got a fairly cold email out of the blue asking about coming to study libraries in the U.S. for 8 to 10 weeks. And I remember that our staff that was working that email box forwarded to us and was like, I think this is maybe a scam, right? What is this? But I looked at it and I was like, no, I don't think it is a scam. So I responded and started a conversation, and we were hearing from a woman named Sung-mi Kim, who was is a public officer in the borough, is kind of the best word for it, of Gangdong-gu. Seoul is divided into a bunch of cities within the city. Gangdong-gu is one of the smaller ones. There's only 650,000 residents, right? So it's on a scale that, of course, we cannot even really conceive of. But she had recently become responsible for the city's support of libraries, and was a person who didn't have a lot of library background and was interested in learning more about libraries around the world. And there was a new program to send people overseas for training, and she wanted to take advantage of it and wondered if she could come visit us. And so I said, sure, that'd be great. She later told me she emailed 17 libraries across the US, and we were the only ones who responded. So let this be a lesson to you. Answer your email. You never know where it will go. So in the summer of 2023, Sung-mi Kim came to visit us. She spent about 2 weeks with us. She spent a number of weeks visiting other libraries across Southeast Michigan. We introduced her to our peers and friends at the University of Michigan libraries. She visited the Chelsea Library, the Dexter Library, the Saline Library, all libraries around here just to find out more about it. And she had a great experience, and she went home. And then about a year later, I heard from her asking if we'd be interested in forming a partnership between AADL and Gangdong-gu about mutual cooperation. And the idea would be that they were opening 2 beautiful new libraries, and they wanted to have some excitement about this, and they were wondering if we could form a partnership, send them some books, they would send us some books for our patrons, send them books for their patrons, and that some of our staff would travel over there. So they offered to bring me as a guest for the opening of one of their new libraries, and we'll talk about that a little later. And that then the library, AADL, would use some of our special training money to send 2 of our staff to visit and table at this amazing festival they have in Gangdong-gu. And so now we have a partnership with this part of Seoul, and it's been a really exciting process so far. And now I'm going to turn it over to our 2 staff, Library Tech, Allison Jones, and Librarian Erin Helmrich, who visited just this past fall, and they're going to tell you about their trip, and then I'm going to come back and tell you about my trip. So, Allison and Erin.
All right, hi everybody, I'm Allison, this is Erin. Erin's a librarian here, and I am a library tech who works mostly in kids events here at the library. This is gonna be the fastest speed run of 3 libraries you've ever seen in your life, so hang on.
If you have questions though and want us to stop because you wanna look at something, let us know.
Yes, please. In 2025. And this is what the exterior of the building looks like. You can see there's 3 floors and a basement level as well.
I'm going to show just a really quick thing. How many of you play the summer game?
Oh.
Okay, so be prepared for an entire little chick badge series with Korea.
Yes.
She took amazing pictures everywhere we were at, so it's going to be another way to experience.
This is my husband's childhood toy, Chicken, who has become a summer game regular. So he's going to be in just about all the pictures here. The Gangdong Forest Library it's named such because it is in a beautiful forest. So the forest wraps around the entire building. Each of their libraries has sort of a theme, and the theme here is science and nature. So we see a bunch of scientific books here that were donated by an ecologist named Professor Cha Jae-chan. He donated 1,200 books to this library, and so they actually have an entire Cha Jae-chan's study. So they have all of these amazing books on display, and it's also a really nice place for folks to sit and relax in this beautiful forest setting. Here we have, on the left-hand side, the blue wall is the teen section of the library. And then they also have like a content creation center in the upper right. And then on the bottom, there's two machines here. The one on the left is a newspaper reader where you can scan through different newspapers each day. And on the right is a self-check station. They had really amazing displays throughout the entire library. Really
They're very quiet, literally.
We were also there quite.
They're very quiet, literally.
We were also there quite early in the morning.
We were,
So
yeah. They are absolutely more study spaces.
there we go. More displays here. The one on the left is It Books of Gangdong, and so they had a couple very popular books displayed, but then residents could actually write on the spine of these books that they were enjoying. So if you're looking for a new book recommendation, you could go to this display and see what other folks in town were reading. And then in the upper right, they had this is a display of local authors, so specifically Seoul authors, books that they had recently published. And on the bottom right, they had laptop checkouts, two different types of either two laptops or laptops and iPads that you could check out and use within the building. This was another interesting display. It's called Scientific Odyssey Along the Knowledge, SOAK. And there were all of these cards hanging here. You could pick up a card, and on the back there was a QR code to learn more about that science subject. So again, within the theme of science and nature, there were a lot of things to learn. This was one of my favorite parts of the trip. This is the kids' room. As you can see, it is extremely cute. They had tons of books, and they also had a lot of really cute little nooks for people to sort of tuck into and read together. This is another little nook that was like within the wall that reminded me of, we have something similar at Westgate. And then on the right, there was a special room where folks could read at a little bit louder volume, and this also housed their award-winning books, Newbery and other awards. This is the toddler room. I do baby playgroup here at the library, so this was like the coolest thing to me. They had all of these squishy trees that were maybe foam inside, and then a huge area that was also padded so that the toddlers could really get in there and play without getting hurt. It was super cute. The forest was all around it, so it still felt very peaceful. They had the toddler books in this area as well, and then they also had this little player in the bottom right where you could enter a card and it would read a book to you, which I thought was interesting. And then this is the kids' room for older kids. It was space themed, so we have astronauts along the back wall, and there was a little dome in the right side where you could go inside. You can see here, there's like a round light with a tiny astronaut that was on top, just sort of riding the moon in there. And then they had like a solar system display. This was, in the upper right, they had like a farm AR game for kids to play. And then this was also something I found very charming. This is an extremely short video, so I'll tell you what it is before I press play on this 5-second video. But kids could color a coloring page of a fish and then scan it, and then the fish would swim along the wall, and after a certain set period of time, a shark would come and eat their fish. So all of these kids have colored these different fish, and then you can see the shark chomping down on them after a set period of time. So I just thought that was really cute. And it was nice because it was something analog that they were doing, drawing by hand, and then there was a tech component as well. So in the upper left, that was the scanner for this. Underneath that, this was a coding area. Somehow these blocks relate to coding. And then on the right was a favorite of the mayor of Gangdong-gu. This is an ice cream robot. So you could select between 3 different flavors, and the robot would dispense ice cream to you. And they also had a similar coffee robot, but I didn't take a picture because there were a lot of people enjoying it while we were there. We then went to the Gangdong Central Library, which you'll see again later. This is the library that you spoke at the opening of, which opened in August of 2025. This is the outside, and this is pretty interesting because the Forest Library, they were able to build their own building, is that right? This one was given to them, and so you sort of see the difference between building a library as opposed to sort of retrofitting your library into a building that's pre-existing. And this library had 5 special areas. So these lines represent the 5 like special zones that are within the central library. The entire back wall of this library was all windows, like top to bottom. It was so beautiful. And you could look out across this like pavilion park, and you could also see other parts of the city as well. This is Erin and I looking at all of the stacks. They had, let's see, over 120,000 brand new books at this library, which was pretty incredible. This is the first of the special zones. So this is a gigantic table for folks to work with together or separately. As you can see, it was unbelievably popular. And this was part of the adult section of the library. This is another of the special zones. This is a music appreciation area. So they had, I think, 500 different LP records that you could sit and listen to. And this library also had a custom fragrance.
Signature scent. So
Yes.
I don't know if anyone has ever been to our Smell and Tell events, and if you haven't, I recommend it. I don't know if we would ever be able to pull that off, but it was lovely, and I think you could even buy bottles of it.
And Erin was jazzed because she runs the Smell and Tell events here at the library. Another self-checkout station, more laptops, and this was an assistive tech area on the left-hand side here with, I believe, a Braille reader. Again, they had so many books, and they had this little walkway through the stacks, which they said was also a very popular Instagram spot for taking photos. And then on the edge of each of these stacks, like shelving units, there was also like a quote from a famous author. So there are 2 quotes shown here. This is this is the 3rd special spot. This is like dedicated to transcription or writing. So they had all of these journals that folks could write a little message in, and you could also browse through other folks' messages. So Erin and I left one, and I believe Eli left one during his trip as well. These were older books. They had sort of like an archival book section. I just thought that these were cool. This is another display, but this is showing other libraries in the Gangdong-gu library system and what their specialties are and some books that sort of represent them. I found this little cat, almost Lego-looking thing to be very charming. I really liked this, and I thought it was cute. And then in the bottom right, they also had receipt printers that would print either a quote or like a little section of a book. So that was interesting as well. The new Ann Arbor District Library section of the Central Library. This blew my mind because I did not realize it was so big. You can see there's a little picture of downtown, Ann Arbor District Library values. The top says, knowledge, culture, and fun for everyone, which I thought was a very succinct way to describe our library system.
And I just want to shout out, we did send, the library has a publishing press, Fifth Avenue Press, and that book that's right by me, the author is here. So we sent some local things, and then of course other titles that they would know in English.
Yes. Also, if you're wondering, some of our friends when we got back wanted to know, what's the snap? This is a finger heart.
Finger hearts.
It makes a little heart with your fingers, and this is a very popular like pose.
So
for
we're doing it a
photos.
lot.
Yes. Yeah. More of this. This is the kids section. They had all kinds of books, but this was interesting to me. A little inside baseball, but it was, the sections were by grade. This is another of the special spots. This is Moya, where kids can sign up for time to use this makerspace area. They had all kinds of different things that they could create with, including these power tools. And they made all kinds of amazing things. They did have a toddler area, which I really enjoyed. It was very cute. And then down in the basement, this is the 5th special zone. It was like an art gallery, and the art was created by adults with developmental disabilities.
It was beautiful.
They were so incredible. I just chose a couple here to show. The colors were unbelievable, and there's such amazing detail. And then they also had a large auditorium in the basement. This is the stage, and then there was seating both right behind it and a pull-away wall with like raised seating behind it, so you could sort of adapt the space to how many folks you were expecting. Then they had a nice patio area in the back, and another picture of that huge glass wall, and there was also a coffee shop here, which was very nice. The third library library location that we went to was one of the Gangdong Book Cafe libraries. These are small, sort of like neighborhood libraries. They kind of remind me of the old Westgate, which was my childhood branch. Very small kids section behind this display area here. They had a lot of like hanging fake greenery, which really added to the atmosphere. They also had a small LP listening area right by the windows. This one specialized in educational games, so they had English and Korean games here that you could use within the space. This was the adult section, and then they truly had a cafe. It's a book cafe, so you could go get tea and coffee and enjoy the space. Okay,
So this is what we went to represent. We actually tabled at this event.
Yes.
And so this is the amazing prehistoric site.
Yes, so every year they have a gigantic festival at this site. As you can see, the fenced-in area is the actual site, and then north of that there's the highway, and then there's actually the Han River, the Hangang River. And so this site is a settlement site of people who lived right next to the Han River. And so we visited the museum. Inside, one of the things that's sort of unique to the settlement site is they have comb pattern pottery. You can see on the far right, there's an example there. So these are shards of that comb pattern pottery put together to make a piece of pottery. And then on the left, they actually used the comb pattern to make these really beautiful, almost mandala-like circular art. So this was a photo area as soon as you walked in, but you'll see this pattern again a little bit later in the slides. The whole museum was all about what life would have looked like for these folks. It's one of the only like Neolithic sites in Seoul. And so information about what it was like living along the river, bugs and fish that would have been available to eat in the area, what hunting and gathering and fishing would have looked like, and some examples of the animals that lived during this time. I especially love the little tiny guy underneath the boar. He just had really funny little feet. And this is an example of the type of housing that these folks would have lived in. It's partially dug out under the ground, and then the like thatched roof comes above that. More pictures from the archaeological site.
Yeah, we'll add, they still have an active dig site on the property too, so they're still looking for things.
Yes. And one of the things I loved about the settlement site is they had tons of hands-on activities to aid in learning for folks of all ages. So this was part of the Kids Museum. Acorns were a popular foodstuff, so here you could like process acorns. You could see what it would look like in like a cartoonish way inside one of these
Dwellings.
Thank you. They had like a photo contest with pictures that kids had drawn of the site. More of the comb-shaped pottery, and you could put a piece together. And then these are the mascots of the Amsadong Prehistoric Settlement Site. From left to right, this is Tori, Bito, Kogi, and Umi, or in Midwest, Tori, Bito, Kogi, and Umi. An acorn, some of the comb pattern pottery, a wild boar, and I never quite figured out what the guy on the right
think he's
is.
supposed to be a human, maybe?
Is he a
just
caveman?
Well, that was actually,
Okay.
we'll show some of that. One of the more hilarious and fun things is they had people, actors, acting like Neolithic people, and
Yes.
that was quite funny. So there's some photos of that. Like interacting with everyone.
Yeah, they were very funny. More recreations of these houses, including one that you could go inside. It was kind of interesting. Inside, it felt ginormous, but on the outside, it really didn't look that large. They also had, this is a tunnel of time with more of the comb-shaped pottery artwork that you could walk through. And then throughout the settlement site, they also had these statues of people fishing, playing in the water, cooking, making a fire. And then these are activities that were specific to the festival. This shows some kids who are fishing for these very disgusting looking fish that are on the right-hand side.
They were little loaches, and it was actually one of the things Sung Mi was the most, she's like, they're disgusting, because they eat them there, and she did not enjoy them.
She didn't like them very much. And then they also had archery. We can see a bunch of very small archaeologists lining up to do a dig. They had some communal artwork that looked sort of like cave painting. Just a lot of different activities for folks to do at the,
That's the dig.
Yep, this is the dig. And so this is a video that was advertising the festival that we were at.
Okay, so this is the site, and as I said, the mascots were great, and there were lots of places to have photos taken. Also, I will say it impacted our eating in the early days because it was all street, carnival food. So I ate a lot of things on a stick and then paid for it with a dental thing later on. One of the things that was really amazing about our trip was that we were special guests, so we were included in the opening ceremony. So there was an opening ceremony on the Friday night, and then on the Sunday night, it was amazing. 3 different acts. There was the opening night, there we go. There was a little different, but there was a heavy metal guy that played on the closing. Do we have pictures of closing in there?
He's included in the second.
Okay, good. But it was just fun to watch fans of things that we didn't really entirely know who they were and watching everyone else geek out. So this is what we were there for in terms of representing the library and also representing the United States. They are hopeful to make this a UNESCO heritage site, so they want to have other countries participate. So it was us representing the US, and then next to us was Segovia, Spain, was representing Spain. So we came and we got to see, our site the day before. This was one of the greatest things. In addition to our table, this was a pop-up library that he put up in the woods right next door to our tent. And so it was awesome because, it's got great little signs. They had little fake fireplaces. And you also, this was a station to dress up as K-pop Demon Hunters characters. So it was really cozy, and all day long, people were hanging out there. So there's Segovia. Allison's a vegetarian, and before we left, we had heard that they were going to be serving food, and we're like, how are you going to have Spanish food in Korea? Well, you bring a jamon leg, a smoked animal leg, and so she had to look at the hoof all day. I'm sorry, but 2 days. But one of the funny things is there was English-speaking volunteers that helped out, and one of the women told me that she told the guys, Koreans like a spectacle, so bring the leg out, and you'll get a much bigger line. And there was a really long line. So they were our neighbors, and it was fabulous. One, it really helped to have Sung-mi, and then there was also, we had some younger volunteers. There was a teen girl that had lived in Los Angeles, spoke perfect English. A lot of the kids were a little nervous coming up to us, and Sung-mi kept saying that, you're foreigners, they don't know. And so, you know, when we were saying hello to them, it helped to have some folks. And then the other big question was, why are you here? And so Sung-mi could translate and give them the quick version. The sheer number of people that came up to us that had lived here, their kid was going here right now, they'd lived here for 4 years, we'll see some pictures there, and then Allison has had 2 different storytime moms who've had different relatives who saw that I don't think even said anything to us. So what our activity was rubber stamps of Akakoji Shins, our library mascot, and then also some of the summer game art. And one of the best things about the activity is you know, with stamping, you want to hit the pad really, really hard, and you want to then hit really hard in the paper. So we go, you know, and then that really helped, you know, the kids, everyone can do that. So the table, so there's the young man, the family had lived here in Ann Arbor for 4 years, and of course he happened to have his Michigan shirt on while he was there. He didn't want to talk to us at first, and then they came back, and then he posed for the picture. And it was great. It was, you know, they had kind of wanted us to focus just on kids, but it was really great. Lots of ages came by, and we're trying to figure out. We also had tons of stickers. A lot of them were the Akakoji Shins. They really liked the sticker of him as Superman. That was probably the most popular. So it was really, language barrier didn't matter. Okay, one thing I didn't do, I was gonna show the screenshot of, so the whole time we were there, we were trying to explain what Akakoji Shins was. It was a groundhog, because they don't have groundhogs there. And then I would show them a picture of the groundhog on my phone, and they would say, beaver? Capybara? And capybaras are very popular in Korea and Japan, and so that young lady was showing me her capybara, stuffed animal. So that was really fun, because they did not know the critter that we were talking about. So it was lovely. We were there. This was one of the best kids, Aiden. He was an amazing speaker. He has a career in television in his future. When we told him that we knew other Aidens, he's like, oh my God. And there you can see he's best representing the hardcore, get that stamp right. So this is what we did. And it was perfect weather. October we highly recommend. And if there is a family here going, we think this festival is a great one for all ages. And so if you can try to plan to be there for this, it's really wonderful. And then again, we were part of, you know, opening ceremonies and we did get to meet the mayor. Eli will have a lot more to talk about with the mayor. She's the one in the red. And then we were meeting important people that I didn't entirely know who they all were at different points, but we posed for lots of pictures. And then what's really great is the festival then becomes lighted at night, so you can stay and be there in the evening, so it's definitely an all-day thing. This is us at the closing ceremony. The opening ceremony was unfortunately the worst weather. It was pouring rain and cold, and so we were all in plastic because we were sitting outside. And this is also one of the few pictures that Sung-mi would pose for. She did not want to be photographed very much. So there she is in the middle between me and Allison. And is this another one we want to show? Is this the closing?
It's all of the festival.
Okay.
안녕하세요. 강동구청 리포터 장경아입니다. 오늘부터 드디어 제30회 강동선사 문화축제가 3일간 개최됩니다. 축제 첫날인 오늘 축제의 시작을 알리는 강동구립 민속예술단 풍물놀이팀의 꿈의 길놀이 공연이 한창입니다. 물의 나라 보조무대에서는 각동 주민자치회관의 프로그램 수강생들이 그동안 갈고다.
Okay, so does anyone have any questions about while we were tabling before we then show you some of the fun stuff that we did after we were working? Okay, we'll get into the fun stuff.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I did roughly 500 fun things, but I just chose a couple to share with you. I went to Gwanghwamun Square, which is a huge like public area right before one of the big palaces. And so on the left, we have King Sejong, who is one of like the best kings in Korean history. He also helped create Hangul, which is the Korean alphabet. And then on the right-hand side is Admiral Yi Sun-shin. And he was like this crazy naval commander. One of his biggest victories, he had 13 ships against like 133, and he still won. This is Gyeongbokgung Palace. This is the biggest palace in Seoul. I just thought it was really beautiful. You can see folks wearing hanbok on the bottom, which is like traditional clothing. Another shot, this is one of the pavilions on the left-hand side within the complex. There used to be like 500 buildings here, and they've been slowly recreating them. On the same site, there was the National Folk Museum of Korea, and this was my favorite spot there. This is the Street of Memories, and this is what a street in Seoul may have looked like in the 70s and 80s. On the bottom, the 3 photos on the bottom was like a photo studio, and they had like an old-timey camera where you could take a picture of yourself. And then we all went to Cheonggyecheon Stream. There used to be a natural stream here, but then they paved it over with concrete in the mid-1900s. But then in the early 2000s, they decided to remove all of the concrete highway that was there and put the stream back. So it's below grade, it's beneath where the streets are, and it's just this really beautiful place to walk around.
And it's actually really healthy and filled with fish. It's actually an active river.
This is Heichi. He's the mascot of Seoul, and it was just really fun to see him out and about. The water fountain in the middle was actually at the Amsadong settlement site. And then on my last day, I walked from my hotel through this cartoon street, which had cartoons all over the place. And I walked to Namsan Mountain and walked all the way up the top to Ansol Tower. It says that it takes 20 minutes. It absolutely does not take 20 minutes to walk up these stairs. It was 45 minutes of straight stairs up a mountain. So by the time we got up there, we didn't really take many pictures of ourselves because we were very hot and sweaty. Yeah, that is the end of my portion. So
Let's see. Jackie, should I escape out to get to mine, or? Okay. Wonderful. How do I make it full screen? Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to go quickly because Eli has to talk again. One of the things that we did on our first day when we were just getting acclimated. Olympic Park is lovely. The games were there in 1988, and it is actually a park. We stayed right near that's Lotte Tower, and I'll warn you in advance, I'm going to show you pictures from the top of it in case you have any fear of heights. But Olympic Park was great. K-pop demon hunters might recognize the magpies, and there's actually tons of them there. Lots of cute dogs. Lotte Tower is where we stayed nearby when we were, working there, and I did go to the top. It was one of the coolest things. I went during sunset, and I will tell you, I have a fear of heights, but I like to conquer things, and Eli did it. I couldn't walk on the clear glass floor. I took pictures. There's an entire amusement park below us. It is the largest indoor amusement park. That's the covered part, and then the outdoor part surrounded by water.
And the tower is the 6th tallest building in the world.
Yeah, this tower that I'm on. Also, Allison just showed you Namsan, so that's how far away we were. We had moved over to that part of town on the, the pointy thing over on the right there. And that's Olympic National Park from up above. This is the clear floor, looking straight down. And it was, I'm extremely glad. Then after we had, stopped working and we moved to a different location, we were in Myeongdong. This is one of the most popular places to go in town for tourists. Great shopping. It's where a lot of the street food is. just, yeah, so many colors. This was one of the more weird little things that I found right near that stream that we were talking about. This is a contained chipmunk enclosure. So they can't get out. There's these nets, but they have wheels like hamsters and tons of food. So yeah, this is right near where I stayed. I'll go quickly because I also went to the palace. I will say that if you have seen K-pop Demon Hunters, I did get to go into one of the throne rooms, and that artwork is featured in the back. And next Tuesday, we have a program in cooperation with the NOM Center for Korean Studies at U of M to learn about the cultural and the real aspects of K-pop Demon Hunters. So I highly recommend that event. And it was really fun. Eli had the same picture of the zodiacs. The property around the palace was just gorgeous. I also went to the museum. My final day, I got 25,000 steps, and I did all of this in one day. This was inside the museum. And then one of my favorite things, the Bukchon Hanok Village. There's a couple of them. This little water thing says, "No, don't put your cigarettes here. This is a living plant," which I just loved. Lots of beautiful architecture. People still live there, which they remind you, that you're, going to people's homes. So much greenery. Persimmon trees were all fruiting while they were there. This was a little mini house museum in that neighborhood that I went to. That was really great. Then I will say, because I'm a librarian, when I was in that neighborhood, I ran into another library, and of course I had to go in. And it turned out it used to be a high school. And so I talked to the woman who worked there, and you could tell because it had a lot of property around it. It was really nice. It was like a park around it. Just before we got there, they had just opened this Nobel Prize for Literature lounge. And so I've got Bob Dylan in their little LP thing, but it's all works by different people. And then just a lovely view from there to Namsan Tower. I also went to the Seoul Museum of Craft, and if you're into glass and embroidery and all those things, I highly recommend it. This was an exhibit about how they have fabrics that they use to carry things in everyday life, so those are examples. Celadon, all the different colors of the pottery. This was a newer, modern exhibit that was beautiful, lots and lots of glass. And I was so glad because I didn't get to go to temples otherwise, but this was right near the palace. So I managed to pop in there and get some really lovely pictures. And then I had to show some food. Again, like at the beginning, we were getting more street food, but in our hotel and the airport, that was the meat on the stick that did me in. But it was fun to see lots of families. I didn't take pictures, but they kept us very fortified in fruit aid. Fruit aid is huge popular there. And then this is their corn dog, which is basically the same as ours, except they put sugar on it. And I did it. Bingsu is usually only a summer thing, but at the amusement park, you can still get it all year round. And if you haven't ever had it, it's amazing. Yoon's Bakery over on the north side, you can get it in the summer, and it's definitely a sharing thing. Street food. This is the woman flaming everything, and then my final result. I didn't get the abalone, I should. This is a paria soup, which is the same as Japanese mint, or we have it here called burdock, or not burdock, beefsteak plant. And then the persimmon trees were, just heaving with fruit, which was really great. This was one of my last meals. This was really funny, this high-end bread and toast store. That's a lot of money for an ex-boyfriend toast. And then, everything was amazing, and then they had cute faces. I got this right next to the temple that I went to. Allison was excited to try the sweet potato, and there was basically nothing on it, right? It was just a cooked potato.
Yes, this is one of the foods I wanted to try, one of the street foods, koguma. It truly is just a sweet potato, and it was served boiling lava hot, so I had to walk around with it in a bag for about 30 minutes before I could even try to eat it.
They had these awesome bionic hands that were flaming some of the food. I didn't get it in action. Chestnuts, this was one of the last things I got to try. I know Eli got to do some cool street food. This was their spiral potato thing that you dip in different stuff. And now we go back to Eli and get to see what he saw.
Thank you, Allison and Erin. All right, so it was very interesting seeing the difference between library service there and library service in the U.S. When I arrived, they met me at the airport, and they had a big flag, and, this was the view out of my hotel window, is to be able to see Lotte Tower and the Lotte Magic theme park right inside the river. So that was a wonderful place that they put me up. This is Gangdong City Hall. So it's got solar panels along the outside. And I was there for the Memorandum of Understanding signing ceremony. Okay, so I brought a gift for the mayor, and the mayor had a gift for me, and we exchanged gifts and signed the Memorandum of Understanding, saying that we would share books and things like that. The audience for the Memorandum of Understanding ceremony was the mayor's staff. So we booked it into that room, and it was a very nice and very formal sort of moment. We had prepared a video to show about AADL. They had a video about Gangdong-gu, and so it was nice to be able to see all of that there. So then we toured the new library, the Gangdong Central Library. One thing that's very interesting, Allison mentioned that they were given the building. They were given the building because kind of like what we're planning here at the downtown library, the new library is part of a housing project. However, because it's Seoul, the housing project is 12,000 apartments in 85 buildings. That is one project. And they were like, oh, we'll give you this building to have a library. But it was not built to be a library, so they really had to improvise to make it work very well for a library. But it was given to them so there would be a nice new library for their thousands and thousands and thousands of residents that was part of this development. And I did sign the guest book and put a sticker of a Kakoji Shins in there. Here's that wall again with some of our books and something you'll never see, me in a suit. I did include this picture because there's Sung Mi again. Sung Mi is extremely hard to get in a picture. So there she is. I'm holding the same Chet Baker record that was sitting there 2 months later when they visited. One thing that's very interesting is that if an item is on display, you may not check it out until the display is over. You just don't. You may not check it out, which is like, that's why displays here are always empty, because you can always check them out. And it's like Erin and Allison said, it is very focused on quiet study and having a place to work. This huge new library, which was almost as large in terms of square footage as this building, had one program room in addition to the auditorium, and that program room sat 12 people. So it's just programming. There was almost no library programming that we encountered beyond like gathering together and doing things. It was a very interesting different service model. Now, this library and the Forest Library where they visited are staffed by library employees. But many of the smaller libraries that we visited, such as the book cafe libraries, oh, and then the mayor's comms team had to do an interview, and you can see there the wonderful paintings that they referenced. And then this was the ribbon cutting for the new library. So you can see me there standing next to the CEO of the Gangnam IKEA, who gave them a lot of furniture. His name is Magnus. He's Swedish. He spoke after me. He messed up cutting the ribbon, as you can see. But you also have to wear white gloves. And we cut the ribbon twice because there were so many dignitaries there. They had 2 ribbons. But they wanted me in both of them. So I've now cut the ribbon twice for the library in Gangdong. This was the opening ceremony, so I was asked to give a speech about that. It was very an honor to participate there. I had given the mayor a box of AADL swag as our gift, and she was wearing the socks at the ceremony, although you can see our giant American socks don't fit her terribly well. They were kind of sagging. But we were both wearing our AADL socks, so that was great to see. Here's a picture. Allison had shared a photo of this as their main program room down in the basement, which is kind of divisible into 2 pieces, with all the dignitaries, many members of the National Assembly, all the builders who had worked on the project, a lot of officials from Gangdong and other boroughs. It was a wonderful turnout for the event. And there was a performance of traditional Korean music while a live painting was made. And so this was like a wish of good wishes for the new library. And in addition to the traditional Korean music, they also played Moon River, which is sort of like part of Korean culture. I heard it many places throughout the trip. So Allison had a picture of this note that they had asked me to write that I put there on the sign. And then after the opening, the mayor asked me, would you like to read to the children who are here? So I grabbed the Chico Choose a Tale, which is a book by our own Laura Pershing Rayner, and sort of was made as an honor to our retired director, Josie Parker. I read that book, and then kids all wanted to pose for a photo, so that was delightful and a very nice opportunity. I am not a storyteller, but I can read upside down, which is an important skill for that, so I was happy to be able to do that. Then I visited, I'm showing some libraries here that Erin and Allison didn't visit. This is called the Smiling Book Library or the Laughing Book Library. It's a tiny little community library, and most of their little libraries are operated entirely by volunteers. There are no staff that work at these libraries. It's solely volunteer driven. And this is just an adorable little place. They had another Moya in that space for where you could, like a little kind of maker space, wonderful place to lay down. Many of the small libraries, you are not allowed to wear your shoes in the library, which is kind of reverse from most US libraries where you better wear shoes in the library. So that's always an interesting contrast. They also had so many things in this library that had been donated or created by members, lots of wonderful, cute drawings, a case full of little dolls and puppets that a member had made. They wanted me to take one of them, and I refused. I said, no, I'm not taking, that's very kind of you to offer, but I cannot take one of your gorgeous puppets that are part of your library community here. This is a wonderful view out to the little playground that's right out there. This is in the AMSA neighborhood, somewhat near and this is a little embroidery that someone had made of the Laughing Book Library, just as a logo. And then they shoved, we're going on a bear hunt into my hands and asked me to read that as well. So I read that to the kids who were sitting there. Then we visited another book cafe library, and there I was serenaded with a piece of Korean traditional music. And then this gentleman, who's one of the managers of the library, and also I never quite figure out how this works, but owns one of the libraries. He is an owner of one of the libraries and has like a media outlet. He sang O Solo Mio in honor of my visit, which was lovely, and he did a beautiful job, and he was very nice guy. So it was great to kind of give a talk at that library. One of the things that was asked I had one interesting question from one of the patrons at that library, which was in our video that we showed, we talk about who we reach and that we reach 85% of the households in the city of Ann Arbor or in our district. And he said, well, who's the other 15? Who aren't you reaching? I said, well, our demographics showed it's mostly the rich people, the really rich people. And we're really okay with that. They're welcome to come to the library whenever they want to. But our demographics show us that really that's who we weren't reaching. That was a very interesting thing for them. I think overall they have a much smaller library audience than what we have in Ann Arbor. Just in terms, the new library was busy, but many of the small libraries were very, very calm and quiet places as we observed. This is like the beanbag spot at that, this is on the 8th floor above the AMSA traditional market. So it's a very busy place, and then you go up and it's all nice and quiet up there, and very similar to the other book cafe library. So this was in Jamsil where I stayed. You can see the Seoul Tower there, and this was my first real street food, hatak, which was something that I was really looking forward to eating, and it was definitely the best thing that I had out of all the street food I had. It was amazing. I went back to the stand 3 times over the course of the week. I was not expecting to find sock trucks. This is a sock truck. And it's like it was just parked on the street right in Jamsil, right by Lotte World, and it was a sock truck. So it was not what I was expecting to find. That was an interesting thing. This is the Lotte World ice rink. I love ice skating, so I knew I had to go try the Lotte World ice rink. The biggest size of skates that they had almost fit. So that was a nice thing to be able to skate. And it was right after, as you know, speed skating is a huge thing in Korea. They have a very strong Olympic program, and so at this rink, we were doing a kids speed skating practice, and all of them in their one-piece outfits and the fancy skates and all that stuff. So it was very cool to see that. And then meanwhile, there was like a Pokemon festival going on in Lotte World up above. So it was a very surreal experience. In Lotte Tower, there's the Lotte Museum of Art, and there was an exhibit there by this artist, Ok Sung-chul, or Sung-chul Ok, which is this really intense hand-painted anime-inspired art, and just really incredible stuff. There's only 3 of these actual giant statues, but it's in this room with mirrors, so it looks like it's filled with statues everywhere. So it was a super cool exhibit. I actually went to see it twice because it was so amazing. I was really interested to get some Korean street toast because I watch a lot of Korean street food videos, and it was something I knew I wanted to. And there was an actual restaurant, not a street cart, but an actual restaurant that was doing an egg toast. So I tried this called Egg Drop, and it was pretty good, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. Then we visited a tiny, tiny library, which was inside a municipal service center, like a place you'd go to receive library services. This is the volunteer who runs it. That photo on the right is the kids area, and the ceiling is this high. It is like a tiny, like you have to crouch to get in there. And one thing I love about this photo, you can almost see it. There's Wimpy Kid. Wimpy Kid is just as big over there as it is here. Every library had a big stack of very well-used Wimpy Kid books, mostly in Korean, but also in English, because it's very approachable. And a lot of the kids that I talked to had some English and were very comfortable striking up a conversation. So that was very nice to see. Allison included a picture of this wonderful display that allows people to put what they want to see in the community. But over on the right there is a mailbox, kind of similar to the teen thing. You could write down a note of whatever it was that you were having a problem with. And they had a group of volunteers that would read these notes and respond to them. And Sung-mi had pointed out, most of them are about love. So it was a very cool sort of community-oriented. This was at the, it was the Gangdong-gu Library, which is one of their larger but older libraries. It's right on the edge of a park, but it is a 3-story library, very recognizable sort of as a typical library space, and also a very busy place during the week. This is a smaller library. One thing that they have, because there's the birth rate challenges that they're having in Korea overall, there's a lot of government support for family and child rearing on a scale that there's really no comparison for in the US, to the point where there are a lot of services that are being built just for young parents and for little kids. So this is a library that was mostly a kids section that was in a municipal building directly across the hall from a preschool. So basically, all the parents come to pick up their kids and go right across the hall to the library. So very busy a couple times a day, but also solely run by volunteers. So here's the volunteer who is receiving the new books that come from the central office and stamping them and marking them and putting them in the system and getting them all ready to go. So that was sort of the end of the libraries I saw, and then here's a little bit of my sightseeing. This is not a squished picture. This is the actual sculpture. And this is very close to the Seoul Museum of Art, right by City Hall, not Gangdong City Hall, but Seoul City Hall, is a palace, and then the Museum of Contemporary and Traditional Art, the Empire Museum, and then the Seoul Museum of Art, which is really a museum of modern art. And this was right outside of that, and it was a super cool thing. And then I found my first egg bread in Myeongdong. Egg bread is one of the wonderful street treats, and that was something I had several times as well. We had to go visit the Starfield Library. This is my wife Deanne and I. The Starfield Library is at the COEX Mall. It is not actually a library, really. It's mostly a thing to take pictures with. Almost all those books are not labeled, or they're like glued to the wall. It's like decoration. There is a small library, and this is not in Gangdong, so it's not a Gangdong library. This is in Gangnam. So they have a small collection of circulating materials, but it's mostly about the Instagram. And there are a lot of things that you kind of see on sightseeing that is Instagram oriented. Here's the Zodiac that you saw. These guys were about this tall, right outside the Folk Museum. That was very cool. So this is the view from the top of the N Tower, the Namsan Mountain Tower. You can almost see the Lotte World Tower there, and we went to the top, and this is the men's bathroom. So you get to a beautiful view of the entire community from there. So that was worth sharing. One thing that's very big right now is it's called Wappenhaus, and you make these little vinyl straps. You have a bunch of iron-ons, and you choose them all individually, and you make it hanging from your bag. I think we went back to that several times. Really cool craft, very popular, a lot of people doing. We were there during Art Week, Seoul Art Week. It just worked out that way. The weather was terrible. It was like 98 degrees and 99% humidity the whole week. But we went to this double like a conference of art galleries from all over Korea and the world sharing their work. So it was like this it was at the COEX Mall at their convention center. And I took thousands of pictures, and this is just one of them that I thought was amazing, of this oil-painted transformation from, I think it's Rembrandt, into Goku. So that was just a super cool thing to do, and so much amazing art there. A big thing in Seoul is that all the markets, there's markets that are specialized to certain sectors, and every vendor in the town is there. So we went to the musical instrument market, which is just an entire floor. I mean, of course, we couldn't buy anything and take it back, but every single one of the stores was just more and more musical instruments everywhere. We went to the electronics market. I was like, whoa, what is this? Those are all BB guns. It is a BB gun store. This is an airsoft store. And electronics market, there was a Gundam there. We also went to iPark, which is a big mall that's on over on sort of the west side of Seoul. There was a Kirby Tokimeki Crane Fever pop-up. Also there was the Gundam base, which is a big Gundam store. I had to go there as well. They even had a Sylvanian families. In the US, we call them Calico Critters. If any of you remember Calico Critters, there was a Calico Critters theme shop with little Calico Critters guys. So it's like basically every brand had a pop-up at iPark. There was a huge Nintendo store, there was a Sony store, there was a Band Presto store, all that stuff. This is a bunch of gotcha, and of course there's gotcha machines everywhere. But they were very direct about why you use gotcha machines. It's the dopamine station. Put your quarter in there and take it. And there was also claw games everywhere. And this one was my favorite. It's very meta. It is a claw machine, and the prizes are claws, claw machine claws. This is at Liam, which is a huge art museum that is both traditional and contemporary overseas art and contemporary Korean art. This is owned and sponsored by Samsung, so it's an amazing building. There's a YouTube ad right now about this that you might see a lot. This is some of their classic ceramics. That's the view of the central atrium. This is the original Derpy Tiger. So they have the original print from, I believe, the 15th century. And one of the reasons that the tiger looks like this is that the tiger represented the ministerial bureaucrat class. So they made him look stupid on purpose because it was basically making fun of the government. So that's the tiger that the blue tiger from K-pop Demon Hunters is based on. And then this is the stairway in Liam, and none of these rings are complete. There's a mirror along the ceiling and a mirror along the back wall. And that big, huge ring in the back is actually only 1/4 of a ring. And it looks like a huge ring because of a mirror. Very cool stuff. There's a wonderful Heichi. We went to the Dongdaemun Design Plaza, which is a really cool museum of design and art and architecture. And they had this very cool Heichi Plus there. But what they had on display at that time was an exhibit by the American artist Tom Sachs, who's like a NASA obsessive. And he had built all of these like outsider art models of the space program. He had a larger-than-life model of the lunar lander that he himself had built, this giant mission control, and we had missed it. It was the previous week. The artist had been there, and they recreate a moon mission using all of the things that he's built. Like there's a little tiny model of the rocket, and like the camera, it pointing at the model of the rocket, and it goes up on a motor, and that's like the liftoff. Crazy stuff. He's also obsessed with Yoda, so Yoda is everywhere throughout that exhibit, and that was just a super cool exhibit. Very cool get to see. Also in the Dongdaemun Design Plaza, there was like an exhibit of famous design, and there were a couple of old Apples there, an Apple Lisa, some very unusual Apple computers, and outside there was a temporary exhibit of these cool giant inflatable guys. It's a very cool building as well. I think it's Zaha Hadid who designed that building, so it's just an amazing building. And then I found an actual street toast truck that I had seen in a YouTube video. I was like, I know that lady. And so I got to have street toast from the actual street toast truck that I'd seen in the video, and this is in Myeongdong, and it was amazing. Very messy and very delicious. And you know, it's like an egg patty with cabbage and carrot and green onion in it, and then the shredded cabbage on it, and it has ketchup and mayo and sugar on it, and ham and American cheese. One thing that is you see everywhere is Kraft singles. Kraft singles are being unwrapped and put on everything. So it's a very big element of their cuisine there. This was at the Teuksum Hangang Park, which was the park where you probably saw the K-pop Demon Hunters drone show. It was at this park the night before we went, and we didn't see that it happened until everyone was posting it. So we missed that. But they were having, because it was Art Week, they had these really cool sculptures there, this giant sort of Pokemon-like gorilla, all kinds of fun stuff over there. Just a few more street food things. On the left is a crowaffle. A croffle. It is a croissant waffle, croissant dough made into waffle. This is a cookie butter croffle. And then on the right is a crowaki, which is a croissant waffle bagel cookie with eyes from Waggle Waggle with Myeongdong in the background. So then at the very end of our trip, we took 2 days and left Seoul, and we went to Icheon-si, which is about an hour and a half outside of Seoul and is a big ceramics center. My wife is a ceramics artist, so we wanted to kind of see there was these 2 ceramics villages, one that's very old and one that's pretty new. But the picture on the left is what you get at a highway rest stop in Korea. And it was just like, it was amazing, a delicious meal. And the place on the right is the Airbnb where we stayed, shaped like a guitar. The guitar center there in the ceramics village. And it's just shop after shop of basically live workspaces for artists. So they basically made a very attractive sort of economic condition for artists to move their operation to these 2 communities. They supported them building a live workspace. So most of them have their studio, their shop, and their home in this park, basically. Now, we were there out of season on a weekday, and it was super quiet. Like, as walking around, we were like, everything was open, but we were like the only people there. And it was just a little bit like the really spooky scene at the beginning of Spirited Away, when you're like, where are all the people? What's going to happen to us? And then we saw at one of the places a painting of the guitar that we were staying at. This is an anagama. It's actually a Japanese-style wood-fired kiln that's kind of like goes up a slope. And then on the right, I forget what exactly this was called, but it's basically like monument to failure, these all moon jars that had all cracked. So it was like, ceramics, you have tons of failure that's just built into the work. So that was a big standing monument to that there. And here's a picture of the back of the guitar from the deck on the top. And then we saw in Icheon-si, the city, this Traveler, which is a great place to end the story. So, it was an amazing trip. I had a wonderful time there. So much wonderful hospitality from the people of Gangdong-gu. We met so many public servants and volunteers and people who were committed to the service. What will be happening now is that you saw our books on display there. There's a shipment of books that they have chosen for us that is on its way, that will find its way into our collection. And we're also hoping to do some more collaboration with them over the upcoming years, maybe send some more people over there to visit. But it was a great opportunity and a great way for us to develop stronger services for our own Korean population here in our community. There's a sizable population in Ann Arbor, thousands of families. And it's a great way for us to we've already heard from members of the Korean community who are very excited to see that we're doing this. It's easy for us to find Korean books to buy. It's harder for us to know what is popular, right? So the biggest thing that they can do to help us is they're sending us the things that are popular in their libraries right now, which is super helpful to us. So those are our slides. That's our talk. Any questions? Anything you'd like to know more about or anything that we showed? All right. Well, thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate your interest in it. And just contact us if you have any more questions about any of this. Thank you very much.